All right, let's dive into a completely different way of thinking about health and getting older, all based on the work of Dr. Peter Attia. This isn't about just trying to live longer, it's about changing the quality of those years. It's a big idea, so let's get right into it. And let's just start with the question that really gets to the heart of this whole thing. Are you managing your health for next year or for the last decade of your life? Seriously, think about that, because how you answer that question changes absolutely everything. You see, the goal here isn't just about your lifespan, the total number of years you're alive. The real goal is to maximize your health span. That's the number of years you're actually healthy, vibrant, and able to do the things you love. It's a total game changer of a concept. So if you want to maximize that health span, the argument is that we need a total software update for how we even approach medicine. It's about moving from what's called Medicine 2.0 to the next generation, Medicine 3.0. So what's the difference? Well, Medicine 2.0 is the system we all pretty much grew up with. It's reactive, it's fantastic at treating you after you get sick. But Medicine 3.0, that is all about being proactive. The whole goal is to prevent the so-called four horsemen of aging, we're talking heart disease, cancer, and the others, from ever showing up in the first place, by taking action decades before they're even a problem. Okay, let's make this real. Let's look at a concrete example of this new way of thinking. And we'll tackle the biggest one, cardiovascular disease, the world's #1 killer. For decades, forever, the standard advice has been all about your LDL-C, your bad cholesterol, right? You get your blood test back and you look at that number, it measures the total amount of cholesterol floating around in your blood. But the Medicine 3.0 approach says, hold on, that might be the wrong number to focus on. The real driver of risk, it argues, isn't the amount of cholesterol, but the ApoB number. Now, this is a direct count of the number of particles that are actually carrying that cholesterol. And this point is made pretty bluntly. The idea is that once you know the number of particles, your ApoB, those other cholesterol numbers on a standard test they kind of become noise. They don't really matter for understanding your true risk. Here is a great way to think about this. Imagine your arteries are a highway. LDL-C is like the total amount of cargo being moved on that highway. But ApoB, that's the number of trucks carrying the cargo. Your real risk of a traffic jam or a crash doesn't come from the total amount of cargo. It comes from having too many trucks on the road. The more trucks, the higher the chance of one crashing into the artery wall. Now, tracking something like ApoB is a perfect example of the clinical what of Medicine 3.0. But this whole philosophy is also deeply personal. It's about figuring out your why. And that's where this really cool mental model comes into play. The centenarian decathlon. The centenarian decathlon, it's such a simple but powerful idea. You basically create a personal list of 10 physical things that you really want to be able to do with ease in the last decade of your life. It forces you to define with total clarity what physical freedom actually looks like to you way down the road. And these are not some abstract goals like, oh, I want to be healthy. No, they're super specific, they're functional, and they're personal. Look at these examples. Picking up a kid, carrying your own groceries, putting your own suitcase in the overhead bin. These are the things that really define independence and quality of life. So you have your list. The question is, how in the world do you train for it? Well, you build what's essentially a physical pension plan. You invest in your strength and your stability right now, so you have this huge reserve you can draw from later on. The strategy for this is called backcasting. It's kind of like reverse engineering your future. You start with the end in mind, you figure out exactly what you want to do at age 100, and then you work your way backward to figure out what you need to be able to do today to make sure you get there, even with the normal decline that comes with aging. Okay, so let's use that goal from before, being able to lift a 30-pound child, or maybe a heavy suitcase. That's the goal for when you're in your 90s. But, and here's the reality check, we all lose strength as we get older, maybe somewhere between 8 and 17% per decade. So if you want to be able to lift 30 pounds then, the math says you need to be able to lift around 55 pounds now. And that is the whole idea behind a physical pension. The goal isn't to be just strong enough for what you need to do today. The goal is to be so much stronger than you need to be that you build up this huge surplus, this margin of safety, that you can slowly spend down over the decades without ever dipping below that line of what you want to be able to do. So this really brings us to the core philosophy that connects everything we've been talking about. The reason you track ApoB for decades, and the reason you train to lift 55 pounds today, it's because both of these actions are driven by a completely different way of thinking about risk. See, Medicine 2.0 is amazing at helping you dodge bulldozers, the sudden, huge, catastrophic risks like a heart attack tomorrow. But Medicine 3.0 is designed to help you see and dodge the tricycle. The tricycle is that slow, creeping chronic risk, like your ApoB count slowly going up for 30 years. That standard medicine just doesn't really see until it's way too late. And so, this brings it all right back to you. This whole framework, it isn't just a bunch of theory. It's really a call to action. It forces us to ask, what am I actually training for? What are the slow-moving tricycles in my own life that I need to start dodging today? And maybe most importantly, what's the very first event that you're going to put on your list?